y'all, and welcome to the Healthy by Heather Brown podcast, where I encourage you in healthy mind, body, and spirit through my Sunday reset. Let's get into it. Hey girl gang, so glad to have you back. And on the show with me today, I am going to get to introduce you guys today to Lunden Souza, who is a former worldwide fitness personality turned master life coach, master NLP practitioner, and is the host of Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast. And it's so fun because we're actually doing a podcast swap. So you'll be able to go over to her podcast and tune into our episode as well. She actually had a decade dedicated to the fitness industry, but then she really started to notice about how she didn't want to just work out, but she wanted to start working in. And so I'm really pumped to have her share just a little bit about that with you guys today. And one of her favorite ways to work in is to examine your thoughts and your communication patterns. So with all that said, welcome to the show, Lunden. So glad to have you.
Thank you for having me, Heather. So happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell everybody a little bit about your journey in fitness and then what led you to what you're doing now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Great question. And when you ask that, I feel like a whole, what do you call it? Like time-lapse movie just like flew through my brain because there's been so much, but I guess where I'll start is I've always been a talker. Like I was the kid in school that the teacher would put the desk outside because I was talking all the time.
Relatable.
Get all my work done and just talking. As I got older, I realized a lot of my family was also talking and not communicating, right? So I started my fitness career in college. I started working as an in-home personal trainer. I would go to people's homes and train them and meal prep for them and all those types of things. And then I had a really great opportunity of a lifetime, let's say, to combine both my talking and my fitness. And I got to move to Austria. I worked for a fitness startup that eventually got bought by Adidas. It was called Runtastic. And I got to host workout parties, live workout events in over 13 different countries, thousands of people, a DJ. We were working out, sweating, all the things. And I worked with that company for 8 years in total, lived in Austria for 7 years. And I just remember getting so many questions about like, how many calories does this burn? Or what workout can I do to get rid of this? And they'd pinch on the area that they wanted to get rid of. And I just remember being like, there's so much more to our physical bodies and what we do with it rather than what we look like, right? It's like, this is our vessel. This is what carries our soul throughout the world to do our thing, to execute our purpose. And I found people so frustrated about what their physical body looked like, but they weren't asking themselves the questions of like, okay, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? You know, if I say that I want to be X, Y, or Z, what does that mean in the world? And is there congruence there? Like, am I actually being who I say I want to be? And in this journey, things happened within my family. I was really struggling with hormonal imbalance. I thought I was the healthiest person in the world, right? I was working out, all the things, but I had extreme fatigue. I was struggling with, a lot of things, right? And I found myself in this world of like, this is a toxic food. This is a toxic relationship. It's this person's fault. It's because of this food, this industry, this thing. And I remember working with one of the first coaches I ever worked with. And one of the things she would always say is, Lunden, you have PTFD. And that was point the finger disorder, where I was just pointing the finger at everyone and everything. And I was like, wait. If I'm having issues within my family, if I'm having issues with thinking everything outside of me is the problem, I was like, if you got an issue, it's you. And I needed to work in myself. And so instead of doing what I was doing, which is like going to the gym, working out, going for a run because I was stressed, I just started getting deep into the work of meditation and getting into that feeling ahead of the experience. And I was able to reverse a lot of hormonal disarray. I was able to tap into more of NLP, which is the work that I do, is just examining your thoughts, understanding that, a belief is a repeated thought over and over and over again. And if I was going to change my outer world and what I see with my eyes open, I need to work on my my inner world of what's happening when my eyes are closed. And so, yeah, I stopped doing fitness. I left that company that got bought by Adidas. I created a lot of their training plans, a lot of their things. I really left it at the peak of my career because I was like, I'm not going to do something that doesn't feel in alignment with who I know I'm becoming and who I know I want to be. And so, yeah, I left Austria. I left everything. I unsigned all the contracts or signed new contracts saying that everything was void. I wasn't doing that anymore. I ran a couple online businesses with fitness. Like after I left, I did some rounds of this program I created throughout COVID to help women get strong at home. But then at some point I was like, no, like if you say that you don't want to do this, you need to be that, right? And even though it was scary and uncomfortable, I shut down everything. I retired from fitness at the end of 2020. And I was like, I want to help people communicate better. I want to help people lead better. I want to help people examine what's going on the inside. And then by default, what's on the outside is looking great, But like I said, I didn't want to point at things outside of me anymore. And I didn't want to just be talking. I wanted to really connect and communicate and, do that better with my family, do that better with my friends, do that better with my teams. And yeah, that's kind of what brought me here today, which is, like I said, it was like a time-lapse video that went through my brain here, but that's kind of the short, long story of how I got here now. And I think, my mom often will tell me, and even though my family is wonderful and we've had a lot of struggles, but my mom would often tell me, when you're feeling froggy, you got to jump. And I just feel like YOLO is my favorite word of all time. Like you only live once. And I just don't want myself or anybody that I work with to feel like they're stuck playing a role or being a person that they no longer want to be. I love change. I love evolution. I love when people say, oh my gosh, you're so different than you used to be, or you used to be that way. Like I would way rather get to the end of my life with a whole list of used tos rather than a whole list of I wish I woulda, shoulda, coulda. And so I just love helping people grow and evolve and shed layers and communicate in new ways about who they are and who they want to be.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think that a lot of people are going to relate to saying, well, I'm a talker and maybe, I can't help but be more in my head and maybe have, negative thoughts that then I'm realizing as you're talking that maybe I'm pointing the finger too. What were some of the first tangible steps that you did to start working on becoming a better communicator and breaking out of that negativity loop in your head?
I think probably the first thing I did was I tried and failed a million times. I tried to, have tough conversations, and I just kind of found myself in this loop of sameness. So I tried a lot of that. And then I got certified as an NLP practitioner, a neuro-linguistic programming, neuro, the brain, linguistic, the words that we choose, and our programming, right? We are a set of programs, and a lot of our communication is, I teach a seminar that's a 2-day seminar. It's called Voice of Impact. And one of the modules that I coach in that 2-day seminar, it's in person, which is the most profound for everybody, is examining your ancestral speech patterns, right? We learned how to communicate from someone. And when I started to realize what my words I was saying and what was coming out of my mouth, I was like, oh, that's from, X, Y, or Z, or somebody that, my mom, my grandma, my grandpa, my dad, whatever. So the world of NLP helped me understand these patterns and programs. And instead of then getting mad and being like, it's because my mom talked like this to my dad, so now that's why I communicate like this in relationships, it was like that Taylor Swift moment. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. And if I'm not checking myself, and then I'm going to be angry at, everyone else. So NLP, examining my ancestral speech patterns, rewriting those stories was really helpful. I coach on written exposure therapy. So I have people literally write out what happened, who stole their voice, or what happened over and over. And then most importantly, the because. So the thing that I started doing was rewriting those stories, getting clear about my thoughts, figuring out where they came from, identifying if they were mine or not, and then rewriting that story and saying, okay, this is what happened. Okay. And because of that, what am I going to make it mean moving forward? Am I going to make it mean, oh, my dad was angry and yelled, so that's why I yell? No, I'm going to make it mean that because I learned that, that's not who I want to be. And now I'm going to move forward as, this. And I think core values are huge. I coach on this a lot.
Friend, what if I told you that teaching your kids scripture could be easy, fun, and actually stick? My free weekly Bible memory plan for kids gives you one short, powerful verse each week, designed to fit into your crazy busy life. With 4 kid-friendly verses a month and simple ways to weave them into your daily routine, you'll be planting God's word in their hearts without it feeling like homework. Want in? Grab it now at healthybyheatherbrown.com/freebies with an S and start building a faith-filled family today.
I think people know what they don't want to be and know who they don't want to be like, but they very rarely sit down and be like, okay, you know what you don't want, you know who you don't like, but what do you want and who do you want to be? And so I work with, and everything that I'm saying I work with my clients on, I did with myself first, right? It's like I'm always my first lab rat of like, okay, I want to do all these steps and see how it works for me. And then I want to help others. So yeah, examining my thought patterns, NLP, rewriting those stories, and then setting core values of who do I want to be? How do I know when I'm being it? How do I know when I'm not being it? That's important. You have to be able to spot the not within yourself. And then how do you know when it's time to set a boundary? Because like I said, we're always changing and evolving. And there's some people that maybe want to hold you to the old version of you. And so when is it time to set a boundary and say, hey, I'm not going to, be around people that no longer, that won't see me the way that I am wanting to become. And I think those types of boundaries are much better, than calling someone toxic or that it's because, we got to cut all these people out. It's like, no, you just got to be more of who you say you want to be and get clear on that. And people will see their way out, or you might just have to set some boundaries here and there. Yeah. But that's really the world that I dived into.
That's so fascinating. And it makes me think, because most of the time on the podcast, we talk about mind, body, and spirit health. And so a lot of the women that listen to this podcast are believers like me. And so as you're talking, it really makes me think about sanctification and how in sanctification, you're really aiming to become more like Christ. And so I looked up this verse where you're talking, it's from 2 Thessalonians 2:13. It says, but we always thank God for you, brothers and sisters, loved by the Lord, because God chose you as first fruits to be saved through the sanctifying work of the Spirit and through belief in the truth. And I like that what you're saying is that you're not only like not afraid to rewrite, perhaps a sinful past or like this stuck thought pattern, but you're really being willing to even bring it to the Lord and say, like, I don't like this negative thought pattern that I'm in. I don't like being stuck here. Like, help me to, change and transition these things. As you were talking and kind of talking about some of the questions you asked women to think through, you also talked about how it's so important the people that you surround yourself with. And they always say that, you typically become more like the 6 to 7 people you surround yourself with the most. So as you were going through this journey, what did it look like to surround yourself with new people that almost would like hold you to that higher standard? Did you seek it out? Was it easy to find? And because I think that is where post 2020, I think people have really struggled with reconnecting some of those relationships. So I'd love to hear any wisdom that you have on that.
Yeah. And that's the tough part, right? I don't know if you ever looked at the crab video, crabs in a pot, where like if you put a boiling water, or you put crabs in a pot of boiling water and one starts to crawl out, all the crabs will pull that crab back into the boiling pot of water. You have to Google it. It's so cool. It's just it's the way that crabs do their crab thing. But that's what I think of is like when we are doing this work and, becoming more of who we're becoming, there's going to be people that want to pull us back to our old ways. And yeah, a combination of things. I started doing a lot of things alone, right? Because I realized a lot of my friend group wasn't interested in the route that I was going on. And I didn't want to force them to be super into meditation and super into prayer and, all those types of things. Like I didn't want to have to, just because I'm doing it doesn't mean someone else has to do it. So I just, yeah, I still do this now. I go a lot of places alone and just put myself in the environment. I ask myself, okay, where are the people hanging out that I would want to meet, right? And that's like in yoga class, breathwork class, at retreats, in meditation groups. I love going to Dr. Joe Dispenza's 7-day week-long meditation retreats. I go there a lot, and you just meet people who are on their growth journey and path. And also, I left the group chats, right? Like, I had group chats with my friends, and they're talking shit about people and just like, gossiping, or just even talking about things that, quite frankly, I'm like, I just feel like that's a waste of oxygen for me, right? Not for them.
Yeah.
I know that maybe, or a waste of thumb power, let's say. But I left the group chats, and I just, started to, even just moving to Utah over a year ago, I just met one of my neighbors. He's really awesome, and he's introduced me to a lot of different people. And I'm very intentional with those. I think you have to kind of start all over, right? Or like, it's like being on the kindergarten playground all over again. And you're like, okay, now I'm not choosing friends because we like the same color or because we both like to play with the same toys. It's like, no, we're on that same growth path and mission. I also started a community and social media platform with a group of my friends. It's called NABA. It stands for the Natural Art of Being Alive. And through that, I've met so many wonderful people, and I'm getting to know them even more. And so, yeah, it's definitely intentional, and it's challenging. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I work with my clients on. It's like, wait, this person I'm becoming, like, my family is not on board with that. Like, sometimes our partner isn't, or our close friends. And I think that's where we get to be scared and do it anyway. And we get to be nervous and sweaty and like, oh, okay, I got to go into this room with people. And I remember thinking like, oh, these people, like, they just know more than me, or they're further in their journey. And those are the thoughts I had to silence too, of like, no, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're never gonna, not be exactly where you're supposed to be. And also, like, I know there's a lot of Christian listeners here. I'm reading this book for like the third time. It's called The Genius of Jesus by Erwin McManus. And I love that book because,
Okay.
I think it's one thing to like pray and go to church on Sundays. I grew up Christian as well, but I think it's a whole other thing than to dive into actually what Jesus did in the world. And, prayer, fasting, meditation, like it wasn't a once a week for an hour type of life. And I think that's somehow where I struggle within the religious realm. I want to go out and be that each day, right? Not just for a certain time or when you're around a certain amount of people. It's like, I love knowing that he went out and, loved everybody. And, even the ones that should have triggered him or that triggered other people of the times, it was like he was going in and finding a way to connect with people. And so I think in our world now, things are very like divisive, and it's like you versus me and me versus them. And it's like, I just want everybody, regardless of their religious background, their choices in life, to just feel like, oh my gosh, Lunden is so present with me, and she's hearing me, and she's listening, and she's loving. And then I also love, long bouts of prayer, fasting, meditation, like all of that, because that to me is really walking the walk. But I know your listeners are, Christian believers. So that's an amazing book called The Genius of Jesus by Erwin McManus. He has a church in Hollywood or LA somewhere, and such a good book. I listen to that audiobook all of the time.
Cool. I have not heard of that, so I'll have to check it out. And I think that that's one thing that we tend to, and I don't want to say get frustrated with, but maybe like the tension that you felt with like growing up, what Christianity looks like versus like, but what did Jesus actually call us to actually live like day to day? And it's like, well, really, he called us to Sabbath, and he called us to sacrifice, and he called us to fast, and he called us to rest, and he called us to move our bodies and to love others well. And that is something where we talk about on here all the time, how like, if I showed up to the gym once a week for an hour and a half and expected to be ripped, that would be ludicrous. But it's like, but it's the same thing with churches. If you show up just on Sunday and you like go check the box and sit in the pew, and then you expect to have this ongoing relationship with Jesus that is radically changing your life and the way that you like live your life. Well, it doesn't work that way either. So I really do think that it's so much about, like you were talking about earlier, being intentional daily with who has God called you to be? Who do you want to be? And really leaning into that and making active choices and not just letting life happen to you, but like you and the power of the Holy Spirit like happening to life and letting people like take on that joy that they should be able to feel from you because of who you are in Christ, essentially.
Yeah. And the intentional part, I mean, it looks like a lot of different things, but like yesterday I was in Sprouts grocery shopping and I found myself just
I
like,
love Sprouts. Can
me
I just
too.
say that? Like their
Yeah,
clearance
same.
items, their manager markdowns, like the things you can get at such high quality for the prices are insane.
Yeah, I love it. It's also the closest grocery store to my house, which is why I choose it, but I also love going there, but I just to that point of rest and slowing down and being intentional. And I know there's a lot of moms, and I remember my mom like would wake up super early, grocery shop. Like I was me and my brother. We would always have home cooked meals every single day. Like we hardly ever ate out. And now me, London party of one, and I have no kids. I'm not married. I'm like, how'd she do it? So like I was at grocery shopping yesterday, and I didn't decide. I just started doing it. And I was like pushing the cart and I just was like, London, you are amazing. You are loved. And I just started saying all these positive affirmations to myself the whole time while I was grocery shopping. And I was kind of to myself, kind of out loud. Yeah, maybe some people heard me as I was pushing, but it was like, and at some point I would just put my hands over my heart and just like, you are loved, like you are capable, like you are everything. You will never be given more than you can handle. And just like talk to myself through the whole grocery shopping experience. And I don't think I've ever really done that before. That just happened yesterday, but I was like, I like that practice. Like that felt really good. If not, we're just zooming through the grocery store trying to figure out what we're going to get. Did we get the right things? And then we're thinking about making it. And I just like being intentional and being in the present moment is the best feeling ever. And I really think that's how we change is when we're not so far in the future or like a lot of us in the past repeating things over and over. We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day and 90% of them are the same as yesterday. And so it's like, if we don't like cut that loop, or I often say like, put the kibosh on those negative thoughts, they're going to keep running our lives and we're going to keep living like a past, present reality, copy paste of the same thing. And I guess I just share that because I like that. I want to do that more. I want to develop. In NLP, we call them anchors. And so I think that my new door anchor is when I walk through Sprouts, which I go there probably like once a week or sometimes twice, is just to like talk to myself well and talk loving thoughts to myself while and there's a verse that I love in the Bible. I think it's 1 Thessalonians 5, and it's pray without ceasing. And so I think sometimes the dialogue of ourselves and talking with God, talking to ourselves, because if not, there's so much going on within our brain that's, on autopilot and we're go, go, go. So I think that's helpful for your listeners because I'm sure they're
Totally.
grocery shopping. I know that you're coaching a lot on that stuff and meal prep and healthy meals and all those types of things. So maybe those listening, you can just start talking love and light to yourself while grocery shopping. And I mean, yeah, maybe some people heard me. I kind of hope they did, to be honest, whether they're like, what's that girl talking or what is she saying to herself? I don't mind being the pattern interrupt in someone's day that make them go look and be like, what did she say? What is she doing? So
Yes, I love that you shared that. And it's so funny that you mentioned that because I just went on a girls' beach trip down to 30A in Florida. It's a beautiful stretch of beaches along Highway 30A. And we were talking about praying without ceasing and how it really is such just like a mindset and a heart shift. And just like you're saying, like having those little anchor points in your day where you're like, okay, Lord, like I'm up. Good morning. Here we go. Like, help me be intentional for today. Or like, and then maybe you get busy. You don't get a chance to talk to him again until lunch. You're like, Man, Lord, I'm really excited about eating this healthy, nourishing food that's going to feed my body. But man, I did not eat good yesterday. So, woo, help me like cleanse that out. It's like not even being afraid to just have conversation with God, like what you have with your friends, because He wants to know you and love you like a father. And so I'm like, this is such a good reminder that God's giving me today through you to pray without ceasing and to let that be something that I really am aiming for day in and day out. So I want to encourage our listeners to let that be something that you take to heart today. And then, London, I feel like we're quickly running out of time, but one thing I did want to get into that you talk about a lot, and it may just be that you can lead us through it, but would you be up for leading us through your favorite breath work practice? Like, even if we just did 4-7-8 or whatever your favorite breath work is to close us out, I would be so honored.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think breathwork's phenomenal. I think the one that I like the most is box breathing. So I'm going to choose that one. And that one is, yeah, inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. I like this because the visual of the box, I feel like it just like hones me in right to this moment. And I sort of imagine that there's a box like right in front of my face, forehead to like nose area. And I feel like we can get so all over the place that zooming into that box is one of my favorites. Okay, so I like to clear the runway first. So we'll have everyone just take a big inhale through the nose and then exhale through the mouth and let it go. Okay, then we inhale through the nose and out. Everything is in through the nose and out through the nose. So here we go. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold at the top. 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold at the bottom. 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4. Relax your shoulders. 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2. 2 more rounds. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. And then fully exhale and place both hands over your heart. And I'll leave you with one other tangible takeaway. This is my bathroom prayer. So I do this in the bathroom when I need to go lock myself in the bathroom to check myself before I wreck myself. I say, thank you for allowing me to utilize my strengths and strengthen my weaknesses. Thank you for allowing me to utilize my strengths and strengthen my weaknesses. Amen.
Amen. London, thank you so much for being here today and being so present with us. We're so grateful for you. Will you tell everybody just a little bit about where they can find you online and connect with you afterwards if they have questions?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. My podcast is called Self Love and Sweat, the podcast. You can find that everywhere. And then Instagram at Life Like London. Lunden is how I spell my name. So it's Life Like London on Instagram. And then my podcast, Self Love and Sweat, the podcast.
Love it. Well, London, one thing that I ask everybody before they exit the show is I do a Sunday reset here. And so we talk about how you can choose your day. Mine's typically Sunday, but where you reset in mind, body, and spirit. And you really just make intentions for the week about how you're going to do that. So what is the way that you reset? And you can answer that any way that you want to. It could be like a once a year thing, a once a week thing, something you do every day, but it's just such a different answer every time. And it's so fun to hear.
Go outside.
Yes.
That's mine. I love to hike. I love just to even go outside and put my feet on my front lawn grass. Go outside, put yourself in the elements. That's my favorite thing in the whole world.
Oh, that's so good. I love that too. So she's talking about grounding too at that point when her feet are on the grass, which I know we've talked about here on the past. And I'm also going to link to a prior podcast episode that we did with Will Campbell about breathwork. He was so incredible to go into more details about that if you're curious about it. But I'm betting that everybody felt a big, huge sigh of relief and felt so much better and less tension in your body after you heard that breathwork exercise with Lunden. So thank you again, Lunden. Girl Gang, I hope y'all have such a great day. I'm so honored that you tuned in today. And please take that challenge that we issued during this podcast, screenshot the episode, share it to your social media, tag me in Lunden. We'd love to see what you learned from it, and have a blessed day. See you next time. Hey, y'all. This is a little bit different of a Marriage Corner episode. So Eric, you want to say hey?
What's up?
Tell everybody where we're at.
We are driving pretty much on Lookout Mountain in North Georgia.
And y'all, we just had the coolest experience at lunch. This episode's gonna be a little bit different because I'm just gonna record little voice memos throughout our trip, and we want you guys to hear what we're doing and why, and just kind of the fun little treasures that we see along the way. So we just finished lunch, like I said, at it's called the Wildflower.
Yeah, Wildflower Cafe in Mentone, Alabama.
Which I don't think somehow growing up here I had ever been to Mentone, Alabama, but it was the coolest little stop. I feel like it was really probably outside of Eric's comfort zone to stop there because it was not the plan. The plan was to go to our little resort that we're going to, and then I had to go pee so bad. So Eric let me stop only like 30 minutes away from our destination, and then the Wildflower Cafe, which I think is pretty famous, right, was right across the street. So then Eric spotted it while I was in the bathroom, and he was like, hey, we could actually go here. So we kind of hemmed and hawed a little bit and then popped in. So Eric, tell them a little bit about what to expect if you go to the Wildflower Cafe.
Well, a lot of very eclectic, but I will say the first thing, there's a handwritten sign on the front door that says the hippie Cracker Barrel. I do feel like that's a pretty good way to describe it. You walk in, locally owned, and the people say they took our name and there's only about a 10-minute wait. And they said, yeah, just, wander around, everything that's on the walls or anywhere around is for sale. So check it out. And maybe you can talk about some of the things that we saw.
Yeah. So we saw a book. Well, first of all, okay.
The book that caught my eye, there was a lot of paintings, was a book called Don't Smoke Weed and Read the Bible by a local author, I believe.
And it was hand signed, so get your signed copy.
Get a signed copy if you want. And I was like, do you think this is sacrilegious or not sacrilegious? And I flipped through the pages. I'm going to go with sacrilegious, but it did sound interesting. So, yeah.
No doubt. If you hear a crazy noise in the background, it's because on these back country roads, there is the most intense rumble strip Eric and I have ever seen in our lives. But anyway, back to the restaurant. The restaurant did have really cool paintings all throughout it. And there were a few that caught my eye, and I was like, dang, that could be really cool, but where would we put it? They had hand crocheted items. They had magnets. They had, anything that you can think of that you could, jewelry.
Handmade instruments.
Yes. Oh, oil, soaps, all kinds of stuff. But Eric, tell them your favorite thing on the menu that we got.
Well, I had read before, they're kind of famous for what's called their tomato pie. And I guess I would kind of compare it to, it's basically just like a pizza in a pie crust. And it actually was very good, fresh, and yeah, it was very good.
Yes, and then we also got kettle-cooked chips that dipped in homemade ranch for an appetizer. And then, oh, hello, there's a kid riding on the bike. And y'all, the views are truly so cool. Like, we are looking over this mountain, and we've seen horses, cows, sheep. There's rocks coming out of the ground. For those of you that are not from the Alabama area, Birmingham is much more hilly than you would probably envision. And so it is just like stunning, these views up here. Anyway, anything else about the Wildflower Cafe?
Yes, you made this comparison. We were seated and you said, oh man, my mom would love this place. Mm-hmm. And because of all the artwork, Heather's mom likes to paint and she's a very good artist. And I said, yeah, most definitely. And then Heather said, I think this is the type of place that she was describing when she was describing this one restaurant. And this was a few years back. We had just gotten a new restaurant, a chain restaurant called Twin Peaks, which if you're not familiar with Twin Peaks, it's what we like to call a breastaurant.
I've never heard that term before.
So it sits in the same category as Hooters and things of that nature. And I don't know how we got talking about Twin Peaks, but Heather's mom goes, yeah, I'd really like to go there. I hear they have really good views. And that's like their tagline is like
Scenic
views, like great cold beer, scenic views, I'm pretty sure is their tagline. But the scenic views are not like, nice paintings of mountains and things of that nature, But anyways, it's one of my favorite Susan Mackey stories, but I love her to death. And it did make me think of that, which was funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Also, Eric, maybe give them a little bit of a background about where we're going. We still haven't even said that. Why we're going here and the length of our trip. Just kind of like a quick, why are we making this trip?
Yeah, it's just a quick one-night getaway, and shout out to Hilton Honors Points and their American Express credit card. We get a free night at a Hilton property every year, and so I always try and find someplace that's relatively close to us, or if not, we'll go on, a longer week or weekend trip and use the free night. But it just worked out this one time where we're going to Cloudland, which is on top of Lookout Mountain in North Georgia, and it's called the Macklemore Resort. And they've got a spa, they've got golf, and yeah, I had never been there and wanted to check it out, so that's what we're doing.
Yep. And you guys, I know that we talk about this often, but it's so important in your marriage to talk about what's important to you as far as how often you quote unquote reset, as we always talk about here on the podcast. So Eric and I have said that it's really important to us to have a date night, if possible, every week. Some weeks that means, in home on a back porch or whatever. But more than often than not, I would say our goal is to have a date night every other week at least. And then our goal, I would say, is maybe twice a year to get away, at least for 1 to 2 nights, just us two. And then if we're fortunate enough, then we might be able to go on a bigger or longer trip with friends or family or what have you. But definitely just something important for us in our marriage to get to connect on a deeper level and just have conversation that's not interrupted by kids, and honestly just to have the time to talk about bigger picture, more intimate things, just to get to know each other better. So anything else you want to add in on this little road trip version of our marriage corner?
I don't think so. I think we're about ready to pull into the place we're staying at, and yeah,
we'll report back with more later. All right, probably from the golf course. Stay tuned. All right, y'all, let me set the scene for you. We just finished walking. Well, Eric walked 18 holes of golf, and I met you on hole what? 10. And y'all, honestly, Eric had a caddy that was walking with him that carried his clubs. For those of you that are not familiar with golf, to me, this is like all still trying to remember all the birdies and the eagles and what everything means. So I had a vocabulary recap on the golf course with Sammy, Eric's caddy, and Eric. It was a ton of fun. But even if we would have wanted to talk to you guys on the golf course on the voice memo app, I don't think that we could have, because it was so windy. I almost lost my hat at least 3 times. Eric, what about you? How was the golf course treating you with all that wind?
Yeah, very windy. New course called The Keep, and ton of fun. Great company with you and Sammy. And yeah, that was a great time.
For couples that may be thinking about going to Macklemore, what would you say? Like, what were some of the highlights? What was your favorite part of the trip? Just kind of give some key takeaways, if you will.
I think one of the things I love the most was that it's only a little over 2 hours outside of Birmingham, but if you live kind of in the southeast, it's kind of central to a lot of areas. I think it's about 2 hours from Atlanta. It's 2 hours from Nashville or Franklin, Tennessee, a few hours further from Charlotte, and it's just really convenient for a quick weekend trip if you want to get away. But yeah, I think my favorite part of the entire we just spent one night, but it was just yesterday evening. I just loved us kind of just talking and getting ready, and they had a happy hour between 5 and 7, and I think you had a glass of champagne and I had a drink as well too. And then, we got ready and went to dinner up at the clubhouse called the Craig and just had a really nice evening. And then after that, we went to their other restaurant and sat at their bar and had a drink and dessert, and just the conversation and just the whole environment and atmosphere was probably my favorite part of the trip, and just spending time with you and just kind of reconnecting. And, I think a lot of times when we're at home, which is great, and these conversations are important, but you strictly talk about the logistics of your week to week. But when you're able to get away, I know both you and I try not to just talk about logistics, but we're able to talk about other things in our relationship or goals. But even last night, I even said, I'm really glad that we just got to laugh tonight and just have fun conversations, and that's what we did. And there's a place for that as well too. And that was great.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Last night was super fun. I think I told you guys on the way up here that we had printed off Tiffany Souter, who's on the podcast this season. She has this free printable on her website called the Marriage Check-In Guide. And Eric and I actually ran out of time to do it. So we were like, well, maybe we'll do it on the way home or our next date night or what have you. But I thought it would be kind of fun to read some of the questions on it too, in case some of you guys wanted to think through them or talk about it with your spouse on your next date night in or date night out. And probably my favorite part of that resort was, the views are just breathtaking. Like you're looking out over Lookout Mountain and you can see so far. Oh, there's the rumble strip again. And you see over the edge of this beautiful infinity pool. The infinity pool, by the way, was heated. So it was, I think they said 80 degrees, 85. Had a hot tub. So unfortunately, Eric and I forgot our swimsuits, but the view was incredible. And they actually had a walking path right over by the pool that was so easy to get to. And we walked a quick, 2 miles, did we say? 1.5 miles to 2 miles. And I loved that time, just being outside, walking in nature with Eric. And I know that one of the themes of the marriage season so far has been from a lot of our guests that they have talked about how they feel like walking is a great way to reset in your marriage and just to reconnect in nature and all those kind of things. So anyway, I wanted to get to the marriage check-in questions though. I love this first question. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put our marriage right now? 10 is the best ever. Eric, do you want to answer that question? 1 to 10?
Yeah, sure. So I don't know if people follow this, but sometimes there's this thing on Barstool Sports where Dave Portnoy is the CEO of Barstool, but he does these stupid things where he rates pizzas and you can't give a whole number. Like you can't just give an 8 or a 6, or things of that nature. You have to give a decimal point. So when he's rating pizzas too, anything over like an 8.1 is considered great.
Wow.
Like you have to go there. It's like you have to you could travel 2 hours to get there. But for our marriage, I would rate it as a 9.3.
Okay.
So
very specific.
Yeah, I just think I love where we're at in our relationship. We talked about a little bit about that last night, kind of with our kids, and as they're getting a little bit older, they're getting a little bit more independent. But also too, I just feel like, and things always change, but I just feel like we have a nice balance to our marriage and our relationship right now. And we're just in a good groove. And so, yeah, I think a 9.3 is a very solid score.
That's very solid, man. I'm like, dang, thanks. That makes me feel really good. Thank you.
I was like 5.2.
No, not at all. But I actually did just realize, you guys, Eric, I hope you don't mind me telling on you, but I hope you guys can even hear all this because I just realized that I still had our, sunroof cracked. So after we just walked all that golf, Eric was like, babe, my feet might stink if I take my shoes off, but I really need to take my shoes off for this drive home after all that walking. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. I'll just crack the moonroof. And I was like, I'm going to take mine off too. My feet probably stink as well. Well, then I just realized I've left the moonroof open, so I hope that they could hear over all that wind, but we'll see. It could. Thanks for bearing with us. Okay, so some more of the questions are, what are 2 words that summarize how our marriage feels to you right now? So we're not going to answer these. I'm just giving them examples. How has our marriage gotten better in the past year? I hope we continue to make progress in these ways. So it leaves an open, what's the word? Open-handed? Open
Discussion.
Yeah.
Open to interpretation.
Yes. One thing I've learned about myself this year, one thing I've learned about my spouse this year, and what advice, I love this question. I can't wait to hear your answer to this after we hit end on this recording. What advice would you give our kids at this stage of their lives? Is that a good one? At our stage. So interesting. Anyway, so then you set aside an hour of time to talk through your answers, and you come up together with strategies about where are you not on the same page, where are you aligned, what different behaviors would you commit to for the next year to better. Oh, wow, all the cows. Y'all, I'm telling you, the views driving into this place are awesome. Sorry, I keep getting distracted, but I just love this.
Well, I told you as well, too, is that, and this isn't like a humble brag, but I was fortunate enough to go to Scotland last year, and I told you as we were driving in, this is the closest thing that I've seen to Scotland in the United States. Just north Georgia, kind of just south of Chattanooga, but you're up, you're at elevation, but just all these rolling hills, the farms, the rocks kind of coming out of the ground. It's very picturesque, and almost, like I said, it feels like you're in a different country almost.
Yes, it really does. And I love that Eric gave me that analogy. One thing we were saying was we were like, ooh, if Macklemore, because I do kind of, like Eric said, model it after Scottish stuff and is named after, yeah. So I was like, man, they should get some sheep out here. That would really take you to the next level. So anyway, okay, well, this is a fun little in the car marriage corner. I hope y'all enjoyed this different take. I hope y'all can hear us over the rumble strips and the the air coming in, all the things. Eric, anything else you want to say about either marriage, getting away, or the Macklemore Resort?
I just think it's something that you and I always talk about. And actually, Sammy, my caddy, asked when you were actually gone for a second, he's like, Heather's really cool.
Oh.
And I was like, yeah, she's my best friend. And I was like, I love her energy. And I love being able to get out there and get away for even just a one night like we did and just get back on the same page and just enjoy each other's company like we always do. But it's just nice to get away and not have the distraction. So I encourage people, whether it's a nice weekend trip or just even a date night. And I told Sammy that, like, we really try to have date nights, once every other week. And I think that's just very important. So that's all I would say.
Well, that made me teary. Thanks so much. That was super sweet. Thank you for telling me that. And yes, I definitely echo what Eric said. I hope you guys have an awesome Tuesday, and I hope you're really enjoying the marriage season. If you have any feedback for us, please let us know guests you want to see in the future or future Marriage Corner topics. Oh, hey, moo cows. Okay, that's it. Bye. Okay, friend, that's a wrap on this week's episode. If you're not already following me on Instagram, make sure to screenshot this episode, share it to your stories, and tag @Healthy by Heather Brown so I can connect with you in my DMs. It truly brings me so much joy to see how these episodes impact you. Make sure to subscribe so we can see you back here next Tuesday for our weekly show. In case you don't know, your downloads, ratings, and reviews are the actual lifeblood of this podcast, and it helps spread the word to your friends and family. So please hit the download button on this episode and leave a 5-star rating if you super loved it. And if we're really BFFs, you'll spread the happy and text this podcast link to someone who needs to hear it today for some encouragement. Scroll down to the show notes on this episode to see any and all links mentioned, freebies to fuel your health goals, prior-related episodes, and the 7-day free trial of my exclusive membership where I personally coach and cheer you on in whole health. While you're there, make sure to check out my Amazon storefront with healthy snacks, my favorite look for less workout outfits, and books and devotionals that challenge me in my faith. If you ever need to find my Amazon storefront, just Google Healthy by Heather Brown Amazon and it will come up. Have a great day, girl gang.